In my first week in my dorm, we had more emergency vehicles sent to our building than there were days in a week. Although most of them came for this one particularly scaring night. My boyfriend had taken me out for dinner the night before. He was due to leave and move into his own dorm at a different university. When we got back to my dorm, there were ambulances, a fire truck, and multiple police cars. With me is the worst part of it. Apparently, because we were let into the building immediately, despite the massive force of emergency workers outside. Turns out, someone who lived on the fourth floor, who was an international student, had never tried weed before and thought he should get on that before the classes start. But either he didn't react to it well, it was laced with some bad shit, or he did something else afterwards that he didn't tell anyone about, because after smoking, he started acting strange and his floor mates put him back in his room. Only once they left, he wandered back out to the stairwell and got his Jennings idea. Our stairs had an open shaft in the middle of them, a gap of about 3 or 4 meters. He thought he could jump the gap. He could not, so he fell through the gap to the main floor lobby. 4 stories. He had some sense to stick his arms and legs out to try and catch a stair railing as he fell. And although he broke a leg and parts of each arm, he slowed down enough and changed his position enough that he didn't die when he hit the ground. Apparently, you can lose a surprising amount of blood without dying, according to our lobby floor. He never came back to our dorm. I'm not sure if he still went to school. Let's go back 3 years to fall semester 2009, where I was in my freshman year of college. The beginning of the year, freshman buzz was alive. Everyone meeting and making friends fast, as I formed a tight circle of friends on my floor. We would hang out in the floor lounge together, and we began to notice someone peculiar. Every once in a while, someone would see a long dude, a tall black male around the college age, hanging around our lounge, the elevators right outside the lounge, the stairwell, and the bathroom. He would always have his cell phone out, seemingly reading and sending texts, never talking to anyone, and rarely taking his nose out of his phone. We were a little sketched about his behavior, but didn't think too much of it. While most of my floor was closed, there were still some girls that we didn't know who we figured he might be seeing. After seeing him for the first time myself, while I was sitting in the lounge, I tried to approach him. I was the floor president and I figured I should at least say hi. But mostly I wanted to try and figure out an explanation for the weird behavior. But as soon as I walked into the hallway, the motherfucker had disappeared without a trace. A few more weeks pass and the first incident occurs. A member of my group was taking a shower in the communal dorm bathroom. When he finished, he reached for his towel and clothes to find that they were gone. Halfway into fashioning the shower curtains into a toga, he sees the creeper in the bathroom, holding his towel and clothes. The conversation went as, "Creeper, are these yours?"
and my friend. Yes, yes, these are mine. And he takes the items and leaves in silence. At the time, my friend was too bewildered to fully register the situation, which happened later when the question dawned on him. What the fuck was he doing with my towel? Another week passes and our first floor meeting is held, and the incident is brought up so that now everyone on the floor knows about this man. It's at this time that my interest in this creeper turns from curious to wary. Time moves on, and for a few weeks things are quiet until one morning I wake up to a hurried knock on my door, which is next door to the bathroom. I open it to find another floormate, soaking wet, pale white, and shaking. He processed to tell me about how he was showering. He turned to find the creeper peeking over the shower curtains, staring down at him before fleeing. Immediately, I have DP5 called while I put out calls to any able bodied guy in the floor to flush this guy out. I had teams rushing down the stairwells, SWAT style, clearing bathrooms on each floor until campus security arrived. I worked with DP5 to try and catch the fucker as they were short on staff and needed the back exit watched. They do a formal sweep of the building and he is nowhere to be found. Me, victim 1 and 2, and a few other friends are now in the main lobby, talking with DP5, filling them in on this situation. As we are chatting, a male dorm resident from a lower floor comes up and asks if this is about the creeper guy. The dude did the same thing to me. More and more students come from all different floors, all with the same story. All of them male. This is the first time that we realize the problem is not localized to the top floor, and the same for other floors. Now we were united and peaced. Fear now permeates the dorm. Both guys and girls are legitimately terrified to shower, afraid to talk in the halls at night, and some too scared to be in their dorm room with the door unlocked. As for me, I was in full on hunt mode. My floor was like my family, and I was going to protect them. I wasted no time after the last incident to begin my investigations. One of the first things I did was to immediately organize a reconnaissance network comprised of dorm residents, reporting anything slightly out of the ordinary immediately and directly to me. Through questioning of victims and witnesses, I started to piece together the creeper's methods of creeping. My dorm building had several exits but only one entrance. That entrance requires a keycard to open that only dorm residents had. On top of that, after 6 p.m., anyone entering the building is required to show their student ID card and sign in all guests. The creeper had two methods of getting around this. The first involved a freshman resident that he had made acquaintance with early on in the semester, during that friends with everyone period. The freshman boss I mentioned earlier, he would call this guy and get him to open the front door for him. The friend barely knew him at all and was just being nice to someone he assumed had other friends in the dorm. The second method was his preferred means of entrance. The creeper would hang around the door during the day while card checks were needed, and wait for someone with a card to let themselves in. He would slip in behind them as if he were a student who lost his car. After noticing the weak points of our security system, I told authorities what they needed to do. Every student had to be facially identified before coming inside the building. Some students had some complaints about this, but it was totally worth it because we did not hear from that creepy guy anymore. One day, after a wild dorm party, I woke up to a piano being played when it was still dark. It was the kind of music you hear on an old Western bar pianos. At this point, it was mostly, what the fuck, but then I got up, pissed off and trying to find the source of this damn piano music at 5:30 a.m. on a Saturday. I'm in the dorm hallway and I'm walking alone to the room where I thought the music was being played. It seemed like everyone else was still sleeping, as if I was the only person hearing it. But it was loud, so I knocked on the door. No answer. I knocked again. Still no answer, and the music is getting louder. Now I'm getting pissed and I knocked the fuck out of the door. The door wasn't clinched in the frame and it opens a little bit and shuts in half a second, and the music stops. All I could see was an old woman, fat woman, 70ish, with nothing but underwear and a nun hat rushing to the door. I'm still half asleep and happy that the music finally stopped. When I turn around, I see a weird girl looking at me through the barely open door and she slams it shut. Then I go back to my bed and fall asleep. The next day I had to stay late at the university for a project, and when I came back I went straight to my friend's dorm, which is in a building across the street from mine, and they all asked me about the riot police that went into my dorm a couple hours sooner. Then I tell them the story. Later that week, I saw a piano being moved out of that room along with a couple other things. I still have no idea who the hell that woman was. During Pledge Week, all of my friends and dorm neighbors had rushed sororities. It was pretty commonplace during that week for people to be abducted in the middle of night and taken out to do stuff with your new sorority sisters. People were climbing in and out of our first floor dorm windows constantly. One night after we had finished our pledge activities, my roommate and I went to bed. My friend from down the hall came in our room screaming and hysterical. While she was in bed, half asleep, a girl had climbed into her room through the window, walked over to her bed and stared at her. Initially, thinking it was a fellow sorority member coming to take her out, she stayed quiet but became confused when the girl started rocking back and forth, and then started to climb inside her open closet. After fumbling around in the closet for a while, the girl walked into the bathroom at the end of the hallway. After hearing what happened, we were all pretty creeped out and immediately got our RA. We found the girl sitting on the toilet in the bathroom. Her eyes were as bloodshot as I've ever seen, and she was rocking back and forth. She had no idea who she was or where she'd come from. We found out later she was an international student who had been roofied at the party and wandered into the building via our friend's window. Strange, and definitely creepy at the time.